beyond ego, beyond self-centered fear, beyond exceptionalism, beyond individualism, beyond headlines. This is Beyond Borders. Brought to you by Listen and Be Heard Network.
Welcome, relatives. This is Auntie Judy Talaugon with Beyond Borders, and in collaboration with Project Hope today, and in collaboration with the Center for People's Power in Sonoma Valley. I want to welcome you, relatives. We come together today not as experts above the work, but as people shaped by it, by the lands we come from, the histories we carry, and the responsibilities we inherited. From Turtle Island to Palestine, we are witnessing conditions that are not new, part of a long continuum of dispossession and resistance. This conversation is an offering, one that asks us to listen carefully, to think in relationship, and to recognize that our struggles are not isolated. They are connected through systems. They are also connected through our commitments to one another. We speak today with clarity, with respect, with understanding, and what we build together must be grounded in truth, accountability, and the dignity of our peoples. So, from Turtle Island to Palestine, this episode brings together organizers working across geographics. It speaks to shared conditions in dispossession, resistance and responsibility. So here today, I would like to introduce for our wonderful audience, our faithful listening audience, in support of shows like this, our wonderful comrade Iyas and Seth Donnelly. If you can introduce yourselves, because today is, as anyone knows, Auntie, is a time of action. And I would love to yield this moment to Iyas right now for full introduction and to the Hope Project, which I'm very dedicated to.
Thank you so much, Judy, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys. My name is Iyas. I'm Palestinian from the West Bank. I'm actually a displaced Palestinian from the West Bank. I mean, if we get to time to talk about the story, but it's a story that has been started from my father when, with all the conditions of the invasion of 1967 and the occupation of the West Bank. So we ended up displaced people. I currently live in Brentwood, in the East Contra Costa area of the San Francisco Bay Area. I am a local activist, and I try my best to help my people in Palestine and also here in the United States with all the chaos that's going on. I'm the founder of Project Hope for Palestine. We're going to touch today more on the project and what we do in Gaza and how we help. And I'm also a member and a proud member of Taxpayers against Genocide, a lovely movement that is trying to get the people who are complicit in the genocide in Palestine up to accountability.
Beautiful. Thank you. Seth Donnelly, my co-host.
Thank you so much, Comrade Judy. It's so good to be back. I remember back in September being in Brooklyn with you and Martha Senator and being able to record live in that cool little Brooklyn studio. So it's great to be back. It's an honor to be here with you and, of course, with my comrade and brother Iyas Sartawi, who sets a standard for so many things with the Project Hope for Palestine, which you'll learn about, just as you set a standard, Comrade Judy, with the Tribunal Project. So for your listeners, I'm one of the co-founders of Taxpayers Against Genocide, and so we'll be getting into that, and also work with a local project with Judy called the Center for People Power.
All right. So, yes, I'm wondering what active work looks like on the ground, for a father, Bay Area activist, quite a culture. I always want to ramble a little bit and let the audience know here in this state, it is actually stereotyped as being quite liberal, but it is really quite segregated. And to be an activist, to be a protector of land, to be a liberator of your people around sovereignty and self-determination, and then really enforcing those principles in our lives, because we do oppose elimination of our people, erasure. Those are harsh terms, but what is the work on the ground?
We say, like we Palestinians say, the Nakba never ended. Israel still is implementing is large-scale ethnic cleansing campaign for the Palestinians in Palestine, whether it is in Gaza, the West Bank, or even the current residents of current-day Israel, which we refer to as 1948. So I have actually reports from the team. Currently, we're looking at, of course, this is all parts of, and there's different scenarios for how they execute this ethnic cleansing between the different parts, West Bank, Gaza, and 1948. The current situation in Gaza is that at the time of what's so-called the ceasefire, which was declared on October 10, 2025, the occupation has left 90% of Gaza destroyed. And when we say destroyed, it's not only residential homes. The hospitals have been attacked. The infrastructure have been destroyed. Residential buildings up to 90% have been demolished. Do you believe that the entire 12 universities of Gaza have been destroyed?
Destroyed.
All of them, the 12 of them. Schools have been destroyed. Between October 10 and to February 10, when I have that report that I'm looking at right now, 601 Palestinians have been killed by the occupation.
Okay.
2,500 buildings have been demolished in Gaza. That's after the ceasefire, the whatever so-called.
Correct.
And on top of that, they engineered a way that also not only them, but also they will also have the environmental impact also have its impact on the residents of Gaza by living in tents. And these tents are even tents basically can protect people. They can protect people from the rain. They can protect them from insects and animals that get into their tents. They live in very so terrible sanitary situations. I don't want to even go and try to describe the life in the tent where they're using a bathroom if it exists. We had a very severe winter. We had multiple storms that, the result of these storms that they ended up destroying thousands of tents. They already been worn out by the summer season before. So thousands of people ended up in the streets, homeless. Basically, they still need all the basic necessities of life. I have a long list. Over 200,000 tons of bombs were dropped in Gaza in an area that's 360 square kilometers. Over 20,000 child martyrs. 1,015 children martyred under the age of 1 year. You have over 12,500 women martyrs. You have 176 municipal employees killed. You have even mayors killed, 270 journalists killed. You have, in terms of housing units, estimated 436,000 housing units demolished or destroyed by the attacks. You have 308 educational facilities also destroyed. Medical center, you have the 38 hospitals bombed, 96 healthcare centers bombed, 197 ambulances targeted by the occupation, 788 attacks on healthcare services. This just shows you that wasn't a war against Hamas. That was a total annihilation of
annihilation. Yes, a sanctioned, sort of targeted and directly a genocidal attack and part of that program. I wonder, the community here, and I do organize in the South and up and down California. Some of the reality is that you and I can speak directly to ethnic cleansing. We could speak directly to lived experience and practices that have been implemented with our great-grandmas or grandmothers or since the 40s, unconsented types of procedures, all types of atrocities. These seem to be without too much bitterness, without understanding in the North here, especially in the States. What we're doing here is an amazing practice that continues in war times. It continues in times of tyranny and great sorrow as we continue to tell people how they can help, how they can engage, how they can provide healing, not just the community, but to themselves by providing service. Is there a regular and annual activity, a way we can link with you and participate? I would love to see more receptions with you and guests coming to speak to our communities. This is almost the only way, Iyas and Seth, to provide a community engagement, is to bring our materials, it's really sort of, it's not a departure from how we've organized all along.
Yes, Judy. The interesting thing as a reaction to your question is that people have, when this so-called ceasefire was announced, it was immediate that Gaza, whether or the rest of Palestine, were out of sight and out of the news. And what we see here, even I was talking, we had this photo exhibit and a video call that we had here in the East Bay at the Gill Tract Farm. So I brought the team members, 3 of the team members who are journalists on the call. And one of them actually said to me that I want to convey this message to the people who are listening. He said that we noticed that we have been forgotten after the ceasefire. And not only that, we see that also in the amount of donations have dropped. It's not only Project Hope for Palestine, everyone in the space that I talked to, we all saw that the news coverage, donations, it has gotten so low. His message also, whose name was Wa'il, that's when the team member who spoke, Wa'il al-Halabi, with the Turkish television, he's a reporter. And he said, we were enjoying seeing people in the streets and, all these things that we saw over the past 2 years in terms of like protesting, the encampments and people speaking. And we saw this drop very considerably. So yeah, back to what we can do. We just keep doing what we're doing, even go back and getting back to the streets and reminding people that the genocide plan is still ongoing. It has been reduced, but it's still ongoing. And yeah, like for example, what you said is keep doing gatherings where people and get the updates and fundraisers so we can keep Gaza and Palestine on the mind of people and also for them to continue helping. Because one thing also I speak with Americans is that, for example, I've heard this person speaking and he said that he was asked about Sudan, why wouldn't they be as vocal? And he said, well, because my country is not complicit in the genocide in Sudan. Probably, of course, the United States is complicit in every crisis.
Every.
Yeah.
Every campaign. Of elimination, absolutely.
Yeah. But so what he meant as involved in like how the United States administration as involved in the genocide in Gaza and the rest of Palestine. That's why it's in my opinion, it's a duty. It's not something that's out of choice. It's a duty because that's the government who's actually being complicit.
Seth remembers this, I hope. Some of them are very grassroots efforts. They're not anything. They're revisiting interfaith events. Whereas interfaith, we have wonderful interfaith organizers up here in Sonoma County. I see that as almost the only effort that is successful in creating solidarity platforms and opportunities for people to come and participate in either a great invocation or a private, just sort of rally their body together. I'm saying what I want to implement here with Seth, with the tres amigos here, the 3 of us who've hit the road together, my friends, relatives. You need to know through the show, this is also a legacy sort of activity of bringing our children into the fold, letting them see us in action, traveling across state lines and participating in mass rallies and demonstrations. We have to continue, and like you say, it's an obligation, it's a duty, it's a kuli'ana, a deep, deep responsibility. I say that some of the most successful organizers in the Bay come from the Bay Area. I want to kind of name them, but certainly Claire Greensfelder has taught me a great deal of how to organize salons, receptions where the education is intimate. People bring their wallet, they bring their check. It's very personal. They get to have a nice meal. I think we should do this. I'm rambling about it because I'm suggesting to the community that is really quite mystified about how do you congregate. And in many, many, many religious and spiritual spaces, the congregator is quite a sacred activity. The person that does it is quite a special person.
This is Beyond Borders with Judy Talaugon, brought to you by the Listen and Be Heard Network, a project of Sound System Culture. Always commercial-free, we welcome your contributions to the production of this show. You can visit us at listenandbeheard.net, where you will find our complete archives of this show as well as the Listen and Be Heard Hour and And you can sign up for our email newsletter, and you can support our programming by making a one-time donation or taking out a subscription. Your donation is tax-deductible, and for more information about sound system culture, please visit soundsystemculture.world.
It was nearly 60 years ago that Dr. Martin Luther King said that the U.S. government was the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today in his speech in the Riverside Church in Harlem about the Vietnam War. And 60 years later, it's just as true, right? Now we're literally seeing that Trump threatened to destroy all of Iran, and the genocide in Palestine is ongoing, and it's all U.S. funded. It's particularly intense in Palestine, where the vast, vast, vast majority of all munitions, weapons have been paid for by our tax dollars. So we are trying to organize taxpayers across the country, including, of course, starting here in the Bay Area where it got started, the three of us working together and others working on this project. And now it's spread across the country. And some people have stopped paying taxes, but many people are, with their families, they're not in a place where they can do that. But what we are saying, all taxpayers can collectively take to the streets, and also working with progressive lawyers, seek criminal prosecution of U.S. officials and international bodies. And that's the current fight, is to use our collective leverage to become a voice to the ICC, the International Criminal Court. For all of its limitations, it does have an open arrest warrant for Netanyahu and Gallant, the Israeli leadership. And we think that that's incomplete until the U.S. leaders also have a warrant, and that will further galvanize in a sort of a dialectic our organizing on the streets. We're pushing for that to defend our right to submit evidence, and we're also staging protests across the country on tax day, so to speak, on April 15th.
April 15th.
Which is coming around the corner. So listeners, this is in New York, this is in New Jersey, it's in DC, it's in California, it's in Texas, Chicago. So if listeners want to learn about that, our website's simple enough, taxpayersagainstgenocide.org. Check us out, and you'll see ways that you can immediately plug into that organizing. But I did want to pivot back for a moment, because there's the duty that we have on our end, but then the work that Iyas is doing with Project Hope for Palestine.
Yes.
There's a lot like what people call mutual aid. Yes, it's mutual aid. I see it as solidarity, where Project Hope for Palestine gets penny for penny to the frontline organizations inside of Gaza, the medics, the EMTs, the educators, and it's strengthening the people's movement for true self-determination, true liberation by supporting the survival of the people, like survival is resistance. Out of all the organizations I've seen doing this, in terms of the context of Palestine, I think listeners should really, really check out Project Hope for Palestine. It is walking the talk. And I don't know, yes, if there's any more you'd want to say about that.
Yes, actually you nailed it, Seth. I mean, a lot of people look at the work as humanitarian in nature, as they're feeding the people of Gaza, just giving them water. Like you said, to us in Project Hope for Palestine, our mission is it's a form of resistance, is a form of letting people exist and stay on their land, because it's so evident that this is a campaign of ethnic cleansing, and for us to have people stay on their land, we need to have them, sustain them to stay in that land. So of course, I'm going to touch more on the projects that we do. It's going to be mind-boggling when you hear that what we provide is as basic as water, as basic as just clean water. And I've just got a text this morning from one of the team, and he said this camp hasn't got water in about 6 days now. So basically, imagine, now the population that was once living in big cities and large refugee camps, now they're scattered in hundreds of displacement camps. There's so much rubble that even these trucks can't go sometimes inside the displacement camp. So the hardship is not only the unavailability of water, it's also the access of even these trucks when they come. So children and women and elderly need to walk long distances for that truck. That is, for example, our truck, when it parks, they have to even walk to it. Sometimes you're looking at a kilometer. So, and people's needs are as basic as a tent.
Right.
People still living harsh conditions, like you have multiple families living together in tents. And I'm sure probably you guys know that in Islam, the Muslim faith, women need to be putting the hijab on, and they can't take it off in front of people who are not their husband or their brother. And imagine these women living for over 2 years, cramped up in these tents with people. They can't even take their hijab off. There's no privacy. There's no. So we're not only talking about only the, like, the necessities, or even like people's day-to-day lives, how they can be private with their families. So let's go back to what we do also. So we have done so many projects. For example, we set up medical points. We keep sustaining them. We set up a school and we sustain a few schools. We also helped with a lot of food, especially in the time when the invasion of the North, that's just before, I think it was for the majority of 2025, we gave a lot to the hospitals so the staff can continue operating in the hospitals. There were so long periods of time where people in the hospitals, they couldn't leave or come back. So recently we have a very exciting project. We really finally got the note that the families of the martyred journalists really need help. So we launched a campaign to help the families of the martyred journalists. We already started, and we are going to hopefully build on that campaign so we can get more of help to help the remaining 270 families of the journalists.
Absolutely. A sign and a symbol of war times and Amnesty International at one point in history, my history at least, quite a while back, through El Salvador, some conflicts in Central America, made a special call to protect the families of activists and journalists. We are not part of that warfare, that onslaught. And it's such an education. Once again, outside of the lived experience of war times, it is stunning to me, relatives in the audience. I got to tell you, to see Project Hope in 25 deliver at a time that was just incendiary. Water, children dancing. Again, things that we fight for and only get understood under authoritarian regime, under the real experience of genocidal practices, do we actually get heard? People don't understand that. I will transition into what the Tribunal Project and how all three of us, in our effort, in a broad, very popular sense of organizing in the revolution, we all have our work areas. And that Palestine should be symboled, at least it is for the Tribunal Project, symbolic of indigenous self-determination. Something that is still yet, again, very much, Iyas, a myth, and that what you just described in devastation is normalized, is what people are very, very expected to hear and see more of, rather than to see what Project Hope literally weaves itself through war times and delivers. We need to continue. There's no other way. There's no other way to bring relief, like Seth says, in it's down to mutual aid at this point. Find your issues, find your Iyas people in the community, make that your focal point, align, show the community what interfaith, solidarity, however you want to call it. It's not a question of national security to see solidarity organizers together.
A lot of people really go and thank me when they receive help. And my reaction would be, wouldn't you do that to me if I was in that place? So definitely this is something I would be honored to do.
Yes.
I see a lot of parallels between what you're doing, Iyas, and Pierre Leboussier, a wonderful comrade of ours, right? That in the Haiti Emergency Relief Fund, where as a Haitian man living in diaspora, he is working in active solidarity with the organizations and the activists on the ground in Haiti. And that's what you're doing. It's the people with support from resources flowing here, but it's not a charity program. You're supporting the people on the ground in the struggle for real liberation.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the part of liberation movement that grows legacy. Your child, my children, the students that we influence most deeply. And I really mean that with great great gratitude to any student. We have a teacher here, Seth, any of them, and I've seen his legacy, who continue to do the work, who become Iyas and Auntie Judy out there in the community in the right way. Yeah. Not as another suit or capitalist. Oh, maybe they might wear a suit, but certainly they've got liberation in their bones. They've taken away from this movement real principles of abolition and solidarity work. This is all I ask the audience, is to find your focal point, your community. But right now for us and for the Tribunal Project, it has to be the struggles of the Palestinian liberation for the people immediate, though. When we say that liberation, Seth, my friend, my comrade in America and the U.S., oftentimes it just sounds like a big flag waving. Grassroots efforts. What Iyas is doing is really what I'm talking about. No?
Well, I was going to bring up, knowing the work of wanting, I assume that many of the listeners, of course, know about the tribunal work, but also wanting to bring that into more focus for anybody who might not, to ask you to say, comrade, say a little bit more about the tribunal work, and then have that be a bridge to talking about the similarities in resistance to settler colonialism from Palestine to Turtle Island. But starting with the tribunal, for listeners that might not know about this incredible project you're doing. Absolutely. The Tribunal Project is a student initiative that started a couple years ago out of Cal Berkeley. But it was really a handful. But Professor Angela Moreno from Cal, from the Latin Resource Center, sort of resurrected my I was already doing the work, but resurrected my spirit to bring it forward into the classroom. And that was completely what needed to happen. I found myself as a community fellow right there at the LRC and on the campus at Berkeley, and found my wonderful, again, Angela Moreno recruiting this amazing team of research apprentices, and we went into looking not only at the context of the tribunal, by the way, is born from the 1992 March demo rally out of San Francisco. It was a huge solidarity organizing effort. And I'm sort of like the remnants of some of it that want to talk about it, want to tell the stories, want to name names that were just amazing through time, of continue to do what exactly I presented to Iyas today. We get to see reflections of this work if we do it right. It's called sustainable organizing. So it's rooted a little bit in that history for sure, but it certainly is rooted in the Russell tribunals and tribunals of people's tribunals, international people's tribunals, not even focusing on world or international court. Really looking at the philosophers, the writers, the citizen scientists, the people who've maintained ancient literature through oral literature. Those people are so valuable to all of the cultures that we are talking about today. The original people, the indigenous people, the first people, the nations that were here and there in different lands all over the planet. And not victimhood, but self-determination and asserting the right, the basic civil and human rights that everyone has. And these are things that we died for. Our babies are martyred for. This is not new to us. So people's tribunals are one piece to this beautiful, by the way, colectivo that we uphold here, all three of us. That's what I present. That's what I bring forth. And I bring with the young mentors, the young students. There's a bunch of them are graduating this semester, and a whole batch graduated last semester, and they're continuing.
We're so glad to have you join us here at Auntie's Table on Beyond Borders with Judy Talaugon. Beyond Borders is brought to you by Listen and Be Heard Network, a project of Sound System Culture. You can find our complete archives at listenandbeheard.net.
Listen and be heard, because you can and must make a difference for the better in this world.
what we do, my friends, is we also apply those principles of international law on moral injury to, and don't let this bother you, to municipalities. We enforce very basic land rights and eminent domain drawn from international occupation and the Morale Act. We talk about that in some of our argument, and it works. I didn't learn that out of nowhere. There's a real earth-based organizations right in our presence that have won cases. So I know this stuff. I know we can win. But we must really be all multifaceted. We must find the best and skilled up educators and organizers and outreach workers with the best, who are, I always say, organically poised for love and bravery. And it's all fronts. It's all fronts. I have students in the Capitol who are going to read 4 legislations this year, right? This quarter. I have students who are philosophers who want to take over Cal and give back the funerary remains and really want to dedicate themselves to that level of administration. Okay? And return the land that has been stolen, the land that has been stolen for all these very high-end universities in the U.S. So, and there's tribunal students that are in Mexico now, ready to do their graduate work with the University of Mexico Autonomous Nations. So you see, it's really these, and all the students in the fronts, the areas that I just listed to you, Iyas and audience and Seth, they've all taken the principles of the Russell Tribunal forth. We have the right. We have to say. We can speak straight from consciousness and from moral injury, and we can try people for crimes against humanity as citizens and intellectuals and musicians, photographers, but really the everyman. So that's part of it, and the principles are very deeply rooted in abolition, and deeply put a tremendous focus on our political prisoners and prisoners of war. We never forget those folks first. Oftentimes they were inducted, drafted, or they willingly thought that they would help and were completely abandoned in this country. A lot of realities to do with the settler apocalypse, and I just want to say that although a lot of people will not admit that the Winchester rifle was designed to kill the native people of Babayala, but I believe that's one of the core principles, and the core that unites us in atrocity, is that I believe weapons that they designed and targeted for hospitals, schools, and children, and there have been guns designed specifically to clip Indian people back on horseback and quickly and rapid fire. These are things that don't deserve to be denied. These are parts of history. They're not pleasant, but we have to really talk about what does it mean in this country when there's a tremendous record of sterilization? Does that not talk about Nazism, and does that not really show us the roots of that kind of deviant behavior? So we need to flip it around, do it in villages down, but I definitely am committed to the Palestinian people and with my indigenous young mentors that are dedicated to this. We're definitely dedicated to protecting land and the First Nation people, the people of the land. Tribunal Project is something that will produce always periodicals, publications that are hard to get from writers and poets from both populations. And we're just dedicated. This is what we're going to do. And we're bringing a lot of our project over to the East to find ourselves in the Caribbean, where, in fact, the myth of discovery found its halt. It did not come to the further north, the Columbus myth. So, yes, we're going to find ourselves there and bringing forth the atrocities in Haiti, the hundreds of years of attack and punishment, 100 years of punishment once again against Haiti, like Mexico, who were places to abolish slavery and bring people in safe from that type of oppression. So yeah, we have history to tell. We really do. And I welcome Iyas and the community to be a part of that storytelling.
No, definitely. And actually, this is where I want to just mention these a few things and pivot it back to you. You know, I'm sure the listeners and you guys yourselves have heard of the most recent resolution by the Israeli Knesset of the death penalty for Palestinian. They call them prisoners, but basically they're not prisoners, they're hostages, because the people are kidnapped from their homes without any charge presented or any court proceedings, and under what's so-called administrative detention. So basically what the administrative detention is basically you could be kidnapped from your home and blindfolded, handcuffed, taken to custody, no charges presented to you, and people could stay there for years in the Israeli prisons. And also one thing has been also mind-boggling to me is that the closure of Al-Aqsa Mosque for about over a month now, 35 days, not a single worshipper is allowed to enter Al-Aqsa Mosque, and there's basically no reaction. There's no reaction in this entire world. So I'm just going to go fast and then see what's happening in the West Bank right now and see what you can see similarities with the native people here in the United States. And I'm sure it's the same in also the native communities in Australia, New Zealand, and all over the places where they've been invaded and executed. So basically, what we see also in the West Bank, because we covered Gaza, the West Bank, basically the acceleration of the ethnic cleansing campaign has accelerated since October 2023. We look at that in many angles. For example, how Israel is actively working on burying the dream of the Palestinian statehood. They've done so many things since October 2023. They're targeting, for example, to make life basically difficult for Palestinians, from strangling their economy. They continued attempt at the annexation of the West Bank, even if it's like publicly declared, but it's actually in implementation as we speak. They have been targeting the Palestinian National Authority as an entity on itself, the United Nations humanitarian organizations, UNRWA also as the United Nations Agency for the Palestinian refugees. There's so many, I have them in my notes here, I cannot even go over them. For example, one of them targeting the economy of the Palestinians is the revocation of the Palestinian permits to work in 1948, currently known as Israel. I know because my family is in the West Bank, and I know they have not worked since October 7 of 2023. And we can see so many aspects of how this impacts their lives. For example, they're cutting down on turning on the light or like shutting down their refrigerators in the evening hours, rationing their food supply. So that's one aspect. The Israeli government also withheld large portions of the Palestinian Authority money. They're not releasing them. And what that ends up with, the impact of that is that the Palestinian Authority will not be able to pay people. They go months without payment. There's so many things, like for the attempts at the prevention of the Palestinian state we're looking at 1,200 checkpoints in an area as small as the West Bank. It takes hours for one person to travel from this here in the United States. It's a 10-mile drive or a 15-mile drive. You could be spending hours at the checkpoint. There's so many confiscation of land. We actually, in my town, we have suffered a large portion of the town's land confiscated back in October 2025. And it's as simple as sending just a letter saying to the residents of Sartawi, and then they will mention the place at a certain hour, and that it's just as simple as saying it's in Arabic, but the literal translation is the military putting hand, that's what in Arabic, on the land for military use. That's it. You end up losing your family, like generation over generations of family land just taken in a split of a second. The security cabinet also in Israel have legalized hundreds of outposts since the last couple of years. You have also, they made actually an official resolution by Knesset to reject a Palestinian state. And of course, when you hear people like Rubio, they're saying, oh, there's no side offering peace from the Palestinian side. That's the usual claim. They also have been doing, just as a recent resolution where they're allowing now anyone from a Jewish background that they can just go ahead and settle anywhere they want in the West Bank. Mostly what I believe I heard is Area C in the West Bank. There has been also so many attacks on UNRWA. So they also a Knesset resolution that bans UNRWA from operating in Israel, which includes East Jerusalem. And I know from talking to the team in Gaza that UNRWA is practically paralyzed in Gaza. And this organization provides essential needs for the Palestinian refugees, from education, health, job opportunities, food. Yeah, I mean, it's an essential source of support to the Palestinian people. What also has happened is that now two things, which are the increased violence in the West Bank. The settler attacks has increased so much in severity and also in numbers. Now we're looking at 5 attacks per day. And when we say attacks, that means pogroms, burning properties, burning homes, attacking the locals, stealing their sheep, even killing their animals. It's so barbaric that we can't even believe it's happening on our eyes. The IDF also have executed a few invasions in the late of 2025. They attacked several Palestinian cities and refugee camps. And what's different this time around, because they have been doing these invasions for at least from my lifetime, is that this time around they actually ethnically cleansed 4 large refugee camps in the northern of the West Bank. And my take on that is that this is a kind of like a pilot program, a test program for continuing this project for all the Palestinian refugee camps, because in their mind, the refugee camp basically represents the larger population of Palestinian refugees who are not only residing in Gaza and the West Bank. There's millions of them that reside between the neighboring Arab countries, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. That's also one reason of the attack on UNRWA, because they want to bury the right of return for the Palestinian people. So I want to put it back and see, like, whatever I said here and the comparison or the indigenous population here in the United States and other places in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely an ongoing for 300 years and plus between Quebec and Canada, and of course the New England states. All those borders were really highlighted and during the same type of ethnic cleansing. The onslaught is what I call it, and it's what it was, an elimination program that continued, one baton handed to another, whether it be the fur trade, whether it be land grab and policy, different acts that they were able to enforce. But the signing of treaties or the signing of any types of international agreements were always bogus, nothing enforced and always delayed and complicated. Each border adjacent to just Palestine, every border that is adjacent to us has been impacted, and impacted by puppets and impacted by tremendous violence and threat. So yes, countries adjacent to us, well, Mexico, I'll just because I'm California born. I come from a tribe that is indigenous to California, and our people, our origin stories, our origin myths take us on a very nautical trade route that's ancient. So, you know, we have stories about these invasions from colonizing forces, imperial forces for a long, long time. So it is these two borders that it's always countries that are adjacent to us that know these stories best. But they also learn the imperial forces, the authoritative forces, the fascist and ethnic cleansing forces, though these are their training grounds. You will see And I will say it quite frankly, through residential schools, the actual program of not just ethnic cleansing, but elimination.
This is Beyond Borders, brought to you by Listen and Be Heard Network.
And no record keeping of that. How many bodies and how many children and how many families were effectively eliminated but by kidnapping the child. We're in that space now in this United States. We're repeating and intensifying through child protective services in the courts. We're a very punitive country. If you're poor and you can't afford it, you must go. And so, yeah, it's a practice of genocide, a genocidal practice that we know very well. I use the word quite freely because it lends clarity to the truth of our experience. But when I hear what the attack on the Palestinian people on each level is no different than the programs that have been implemented here. And this ancient trade agreement that we've had with one another as original people, we're first attacked. It's time to eliminate. So yes, the aggression to imprison, to paper genocide a Palestinian citizen, to steal their land is happening, right? It's happened several times in LA. And we forget with these history lessons of America that these ancient trade agreements that have worked for us works for us even to this minute. California is really quite different with our border and our communities. But I just want to say that let's not forget, with all of these border questions, before Mexico, before Canada, there were original people here. Before those border questions, there were people that were not colony Spanish. They were not from Canada. They were not nautical. They were ancient civilizations here already. And here we are speaking over them. So I feel like sometimes, yes, we're speaking over the Palestinian people, and we don't give enough time. And that's why I want to see a program where you and I keep bringing that presentation to the community until it just becomes, in our world, unnormalized to agree to all these programs of elimination and the nice word erasure.
Yeah, not only that, Judy, there's also so many to uncover, not only in, like you said, like the forgotten history of the indigenous population, and this is also ongoing Palestine, also the diversion of the reality. For example, like resistance, right? There's so many things that are being misrepresented here in the United States that we could bring on in your show and educate the public.
Yes. I think that one of the most evil forms of the resistance that we've only accepted recently is rhetoric. It's gone crazy. It's pretty evil. We need to check each other. We need to talk about and maybe teach criticism, how to be amongst each other as a community, and find ourselves rethinking how we speak, how we address, and truly in the right way, not mimicry, not out of shame and pressure and public humiliation, but through real. I love what Seth says. A dialectic grows from these actions and these activities. It can't help but do that. And there's so many grassroots organizers, right, that are in proximity of us, that are a little bit older than I, but I cherish them because the success that they brought to land issues, which is the Palestinian question is a land issue, is a sovereignty issue, is a question of self-determination and an origin story. Well, there's some allies in the Americas that are tremendous teachers, and we've lost a lot of them. So I'm dedicated to this year to find broad-based solidarity themes and centering. And these organizers are toxic waste, contamination, anti-dumper type of organizers that have been doing it for 50 years, and they can find the parallels. We could talk about the olive trees and the cisterns and the water sources that have been contaminated, bombed, sacred sites in Palestine. Sacred sites are always the strongest argument in all that we have. And like you mentioned, Australia too. They're the people I learned the most from. What do you think, Seth? What's up, comrade?
I think when we're thinking about, well, first of all, I love the idea of bringing together this. I think we're all part of it. We're part of this journey right now, and I love your lead on that, to bring those comrades in. That's part of what's missing in how this intergenerational connections and teaching, where the younger generations actually truly authentically can learn about the struggle across all these different lines of space and time. Leslie, I know we're getting ready to wrap up, but when you guys are both talking about the parallels, I was thinking about, here we are at Taxpayers Against Genocide today in the year 2026, and if we were to go back to the 1800s, the U.S. taxpayers were paying for the federal government, which would use federal tax dollars to pay settlers to bring back scalps of Native peoples. That was federal tax dollars. And a settler could get, you correct me if I'm wrong, Judy, but a settler could get a very huge sum of money for that. And they had it calibrated. This much for the scalp of a man, this much for the scalp of a woman, this much for the scalp of a child. Yes. And that was federal tax dollars. It was a big practice here in California. And then here we are now, and our tax dollars aren't paying for scalp bounties, but they're paying for 2,000-pound bombs. They're paying for these horrific munitions. They're directly or indirectly paying for the white phosphorus that the IDF uses, and so on. So really, we have to get ourselves organized, and we have to recognize that it is a system that we're up against, and a system can be changed. It can be overthrown, and we can create something much better. And the key to that will be having that network you're talking about, Judy, weaving people together so that we can be in an intergenerational solidarity and recognize we can win. And that's what the Palestinian people are also showing so much to the world, is that commitment to not give up, the steadfastness. And that's what we're going to need, and especially here in the belly of the beast.
There's some tremendous. I got the idea, by the way. I harvested off of Bradley Angel, and I'm revisiting a lot of the older cats that won cases against. So some of the most dangerous people, Iyas, in the colonies is a dumper, is a polluter. They're very. I mean, since the beginning of trash pickup, are the most corrupt. And they lead a lot of syndicated types of organized crime things anyway, historically, in the United States. So, when we encounter dumpers that are going through our communities where we're thick maybe with population, our mosques are there, our churches, our people are there, our fisheries are there, you will find oftentimes on rail or through the trucking route, that's precisely where the toxic waste is not only traveled, but dumped. And so we started to organize against that, and we're still doing that. That is almost critical to the question of sovereignty, critical to the question of land rights and treaty violations. We see the parallel. Yes, it's and especially California. I would be excited to see us peel that back like an onion and really see the onslaught. I say, by the time Westward Ho, by the time Manifest Destiny found its full form, it was a monster, definitely buying scalps and paying pinchmen and hired guns to massacre, to poison, to burn children and elders. Same program, Iyas. If we pull it back in an evening and a series of educational programs where we really show this is the absolute end result of colonization. This is what it was bent on doing, and let's show them. Let's show them. It's still there in reservations. It looks just like the tent cities you're speaking about. It's in Makaha. It's in Indonesia. It's in probably in Palau. And all these United States bases all across the world, you will find the impoverished local indigenous people dispossessed and placed over there. And like you say, those substandard living is beyond belief and is bent for elimination.
Yeah, I mean, what you said, I mean, you're saying that, and I'm thinking that what happened in Gaza didn't stop at Gaza. Now, southern Lebanon, I mean, there's...
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no. It will keep crawling. And I want to just say, look at the people we're surrounded with. This is Seth Donnelly. This is my papa, right? These are folks at the time. This is Angela, myself, and all of the students, deeply influenced.
Beautiful.
By the resistance in Palestine, and of course our political prisoners, Takur. These are, and I'm getting texts from all the students. I'm blessed. I want to share that blessing. I want to also propagate our teachings. And so, no, this idea came from Bradley Angel, who continues to fight in Hunters Point and in Laytonville Reservation, Rancheria. He helped us all win down there in Ward Valley, along with a lot of other solidarity organizers. These are people who apply international law right at the moment that they could really kind of really hold that arm at the back of a monster corporation, or the 10 environmental groups that sort of gatekeep. We've been really successful, but I would love to see a panel. He's the one who called for a larger online conference. And would it be amazing, Seth Donnelly and Iyas, to see the Palestinian lead that conversation, interrogating what happened in California? What continue? I'm very focused on the onslaught that found itself to be a monster with the gold rush and the land grabs and the massacres.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And for myself and Judy Talaugon, thank you, our dear listeners, for joining us at Auntie's Table and for listening and giving us the opportunity to be heard. And we'll see you next time. Beyond Borders is brought to you by Listen and Be Heard Network. Please visit our archives at listenandbeheard.net.